All right, this is a retort or rebuttal, whatever you want to call it, to the Beyond Wednesday show where they had Heidi McDonald on there, supposedly a member of the Whisper Network. And what's the Whisper Network? Liberals in comic books, places of power, that they've stifled growth, they've gotten people fired. Some of the rumored members are her, Alex DeCampi. You got Mark Wade, Gail Simone. Who else? Who's the other one? There's another Notorious one that was doing it. And Rich Johnson says, oh, there's no Whisper Network. Maybe he's part of it. He's talking to all these people. And, this stuff came to light when Mark Wade got Richard C. Meyer, a.k.a. your boy Zach. He got him kicked out of Antarctic Press. He was going to put out one of his graphic novels through there. And these guys, it's just like the 1995 WWF clique. If they don't like you, they're going to screw with you. And they were pushing out people. And, and they had a lawsuit about it. Mark Wade called Antarctic Press and told them not to run that book. And they didn't. And then Richard C. Meyer sued him. Look all this stuff up, and it dragged on and on and on and on. And then when both guys found out, that they were just bleeding each other in court, they dropped the case. But the free publicity, basically created Comicsgate. And now that's petering out because these guys took money for projects and it's like a pyramid scheme. They're not delivering the projects on time. Years for projects, a la Rob Liefeld. Never delivered on a Kickstarter that he did. And then he's got the nerve to scream about Marvel, which is a sidebar where Rob Liefeld, he only had a problem with Deadpool versus Wolverine 9 months after the movie came out. So to me, nobody brings that up. That all of a sudden he's like, oh, they screwed me on the red carpet for that. He must have had a contract with Marvel, and either they didn't renew it or he didn't get what he wanted, and all of a sudden he started squawking about past issues. He didn't bring it up when the movie happened. He waited 9 months. So anyway, back to Richard C. Meyer and the whole Comicsgate thing. They were doing projects that they never delivered on. So now they got to do another project to pay for the past project. And now because they've burned people, the stuff's not selling anymore. I quit buying crowdfunding stuff because of their garbage. Because I ordered a couple books off these guys. And the other thing is, these books are not $1.99, $2.99, $3.99, $4.99. No, they're like $35. And I'm like, no. And you get a flimsy poster. Half-price books at Orland Park. I saw in there last week, they had the Cyber Frog action figure with the fried bucket of chicken. And they had it, and it was wrapped up in plastic. And half-price books around here is basically like a pawn shop. For anybody that needs money, they dump their collections there. And you'll see it if you go there. But yeah, so the stuff's not selling anymore. People don't trust them because of non-delivery and waiting years to get a comic book. And I want my monthly comic books. I want my Spider-Man and all that. But I'm not paying for identity politics. Here's another thing that this Whisper Network is pushing. Every other week, DC is turning a character gay. I don't want to see that stuff. I don't want to see that in comics. I'm not reading it. It's not for me. And, and they're pandering to an audience that's what, like 5% of the crowd? So, hey, good luck on that one. And the other thing is the $5 books, I'm out. When comic books hit $4.99, I'm not buying comics for $4.99. That's a ripoff. And that's something that Steve Geppi did with Diamond, where they demanded these guys to put the prices on that stuff to raise it so he could get a bigger cut. And another thing with the Diamond is he had a monopoly for almost 30 years, and they still wrecked it. And they wrecked it by not taking books on, raising prices, shipping. Everybody's complained about, the damaged products. Their software system is like from 1995. They never upgraded their stuff, and they had that antitrust suit back in the early 2000s, and the government found that, quote, they basically don't care about comic books because it's not big enough market. It doesn't impact people. So they let them get away with it for 30 years. And then the pandemic came along and that ruined it for them. And, this guy had a monopoly on the business, and he didn't pay on like 4 or 5 mansions that he owned. They went into foreclosure. So what does that tell you? Something was going on with the money, and now we find out in the bankruptcy, $33 million he floated to deadbeat comic book shops that should have went under, but he wanted to keep them going because basically the comic shops at that point were franchises for his stuff to sell them books. So he figured, okay, in order to protect my interests, I got to, loan these guys money, and these guys never paid him back. And that's why he's bankrupt. And, so bad business practices, and, nobody will admit to it who's, in the hole. I didn't see that on the bankruptcy papers for Diamond. I didn't see a list of comic shops of how much they owed them. I saw the list of comic shops all around. They had that on there. And accounts. And there was a lot of club accounts in there where 2 and 3 guys would join together to order comics so they could get a discount so they could order more product. They're basically collectors, so they were getting a discount on buying the stuff instead of going to a shop. And then I posted a video about this, or not a video, but I posted a response about this on Beyond Wednesdays here, this new one that just had the Heidi McDonald on there. And when I started about Steve Geppi, the comment got deleted. So much for free press. So I wouldn't go on Beyond Wednesdays. I wouldn't go on that show because I tell you, it would turn into an outright fight. If I could even get a word in where Dennis cuts everybody off, Emmett sits back there and just nods his head, and, he's a sponge. He takes the shit in, doesn't say much. Your host, all he's worried about is smoking a joint. When he has not the Tuesday night crew, when he has those other guys on there, forget it. Those shows suck. And this other thing that's going to ruin the business, obviously none of you guys have ever seen or talked to Jim Shooter, is all the variant covers. And all the gimmicks, the slab comics, Slabgate. If somebody found a way to pick open the CGC books and replace them with inferior copies in there. And, I don't trust them, And Emmett did bring up a really good point where he says basically those are plastic tombs that those books are going to deteriorate in those plastic containers. And yeah, he's right, and you're supposed to change out the plastic bags. Yeah, because the bags got a chemical in there, especially the older ones, that deteriorate the paper. It turns the paper yellow. And, and I just, they got these guests, Rich Johnson, I sent him a press release. I was going to start a distributorship when all this stuff started going down. He never put it out. So all he's looking for is money to put stuff out. He's selectively picking who and what he's going to report on. That's not the news. That's the shit going on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. All of that mainstream news is tainted. You want to know what's really going on? Go to the X22 report on Rumble. That'll tell you what's really going on in the world. But, yeah. So, I'm not going to come on that show. And look what else that Whisper Network did. Ed Piskor took his own life out of them bullying and harassing him, trying to cancel him. Well, maybe it's time for the Whisper Network to get taken down. Maybe the Shout Network is coming. We're going to scream, and we're going to scream loud.